Were you born in Harding? If not, what brought you?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Harding, um, right in the center of town is where I was born. So my first place ever was Harding, and I've lived here all my life. I just live a short distance from where I was born, so I've been in Harding all my life and enjoyed every minute of it.
Um, uh, what was your childhood?
Well, it was a great childhood. It's a little different than today because when we didn't have video games, we didn't have all the electronic games, so we just played with each other, found friends, and rode our bikes everywhere. At that time, there wasn't as much traffic and as craziness as there is today, so we could ride safely down the streets. Just take off and find some fun.
Um, how has Harding changed this year?
I was hardly. It's got busier. Years ago when that big Verizon building you see when you head out of town, that wasn't here. When that came in, all of a sudden, a lot of traffic. We got a street light. We got a lot of things going on, so it got a lot busier. Also, without internet and such, everybody got to know one another, so you knew your neighbors well. There's a different community back then.
What was Mills County College like?
It was good. It taught me my basics of what I need to know. When I was growing up, college wasn't as paramount as it is today, so I was able to establish a great career with the basics I learned in college. Back then, it was different than it is today as far as education goes. But I feel you learn more outside of school than almost in school because once you get out, then you learn so much more. 25% of all the presidents didn't go to school, college. So you learn a lot outside of school too.
What made you choose your career in sales?
Well, it's funny. Some people, you don't know what you want to do when you grow up, and life is funny, the twists and turns, and just by fate, a good friend of mine who also was in Harding, where I grew up with, had this great job in sales. So I was in graphic arts at the time, and it just wasn't my thing. So you find your way through life, and he got me into sales, and the rest is history.
What was it like working in sales, and how has it changed
Oh, it
in the
changed a lot.
past 31 years?
It's changed so much. It used to be a lot more open doors. You used to just walk into like Harding. You go to the school, you gotta go through all sorts of security checks and locked doors and such. We didn't have locked doors. You just walk right into the school. So, harder to get into places. And we didn't have cell phones back then, so we had to make a call into a payphone. When you got back, you got messages from the receptionist. You looked through your messages. Somebody called you. You wrote it down. Now it's changed so much. It's so much quicker and faster, and it's changed a lot.
What was your favorite project you've worked
Favorite project? What do you mean by favorite project?
Sales. Yeah, like.
Oh, in sales, my favorite project is what I'm doing right now. I'm mentoring younger guys like yourselves, and I find a lot of reward in teaching them the ways. I get these guys right out of school; they know it all, and then a year later, say, "Wow, Bruce, I didn't know it all." So I get a lot of enjoyment out of mentoring younger guys like yourself.
How do you feel with Harding changing? Like, how did you react with the past few years?
Well, change is inevitable. You're always going to get change. So you just adapt to the change and find the good in the change. But even with the change, there's still a lot of old. I've been involved with the historical society for years. It's good to see the people in the room. They were old-time Harding colleagues for all the years. So it has changed, but you need to adapt to change. That's what you do.
Well, what are your hobbies and what makes you enjoy it?
Oh, I love working around the house. I love woodworking. When I moved into my house, I bought my house when I was 21, so I couldn't afford to have people do projects for me. So I learned how to do it myself, and as a result of that, again, life's twists and turns. I I learned how to do a lot of these things and really enjoyed doing it. And now I'm doing it for my kids, and friends, and such, just to help them out. So some guys did that for me when I was learning it, so I'm playing it forward.
Tell us about your grandchildren.
My what?
Your grandchildren.
I don't have any grandchildren. When I do, I'll let you know.
Are you married? If so, tell us about your wife.
Oh, my wife. My wife, we met in business, and so we had two great daughters together who also went to Harding School, and we actually met through work. So one daughter went to Temple University, the other went to Sabe Regina University, and the one who went to Sabe, she actually got a job as a yachty. You see that below deck show, and she learned actually more in that job than anything else. Now she's head of marketing for a large software company because of what she learned in yachting and how to react and how to step up and how to take care of people.
Why did you want to be a part of this project?
As I said before, I like playing it forward. I like giving back. I do have a lot of memories of Harding. Harding's been very dear to me. My parents are here. My grandparents are here. My great grandparents are here. So this is kind of in my lifeblood. My great uncle was the postmaster. My great grandmother was the postmaster. They used to own the general store in town. So the village market. So a lot of roots in Harding.
Are you involved in the Harding Library or any other Harding projects?
Not currently, but I was president of the Harding Township School Society for about 12 years, and I'm on different boards in town, historic preservation, and helped out the school with projects in the past. So I believe in giving back.
Do you have any stories about growing up that you want to share with us?
Well, one came to mind this morning. You guys walked down from the school?
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite day of the week was, second, third, fourth grade, was Tuesday. Because Tuesday was Scout Day. And at that time, everybody walked down Leesville Road to the Presbyterian Church. It reminded me so much of that. Less traffic, wasn't as crazy, so it was like nothing for us to walk down and go to our Boy Scout meetings there. And later on, when it comes to Boy Scouts, we would meet Thursday nights and we would play in the park and we had different projects. And I'm still a lot of friends with a lot of those scouts I had way back then. Good times.
Thank you so much for participating in this project.
Well, thank you for calling me in. I was very honored to help you guys out.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
When did you move to Harding, or were you born in Harding?
No, we moved here when I was 8.
Okay. Did you go to Harding Township School?
I didn't. I attended school in Morristown.
What changes have you seen in Harding over the years?
Tell you what the changes over the years. I thought we were going back for history. Bigger police force. When I was growing up, there were 2. Because of the 3-acre and then it became 5-acre zoning for housing, there have been a lot of houses that have been built, but not so many. I think the population is pretty much the same, 3,000 or something. 3,000 population, 3,200.
It was around 1,500
homes.
What was it like when you moved here?
Very rural, very peaceful and quiet. I had friends that lived in other towns because of school, and they would come here and they said, "Oh my gosh, you live out here in the boonies." But I guess my most favorite memories are the fact that we could go anywhere and not be afraid. We rode our bikes everywhere. We walked everywhere. the cop would pick me up once in a while when we were hitchhiking, but it was peaceful. And in the summertime on Village Road, there were 4 that lived on Village and 2 of us that lived on Featherbed Lane. And we would get together and we'd go pool hopping. No fences around the pools. We'd hop around. And we could lay down on Village Road and look up at the stars and talk. And a car wouldn't come by. So that's another thing that's changed is the traffic.
What was your favorite activity to do when you were younger?
Pool hopping, hitchhiking, looking at the stars.
Do you have a good story to share?
A good story.
Or any memories that you have?
Yeah, I think my friend's mother, who was delightful, she's still alive to this day, taught me how to drive a car when I was 14 down in the Great Swamp. And it was a stick shift, and it was a dirt road.
What is the most memorable thing that has happened to you while you've been in Harding?
What's happened?
Like the most memorable thing that has happened while you've been.
I got married, and my husband and I moved back from California, and we raised 3 children here, all of whom went to Harding Township School.
What do you like about gardening, and what type of plants do you grow?
Speaking in the garden club, I'm on for a big national meeting tomorrow in Morristown. I grow perennials. I'm looking to get a tree in the next couple days to put in the yard, but mostly perennials.
What made you want to start working in real estate?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've just been working at it for, well, I'm retired now, but just like working with people and the outcome of selling a house to them. It's hard work.
How has the real estate industry changed over the years?
I got an hour or 2. In the beginning, we could write contracts on the hood of a car. And what I found over the last, present time, everything is done electronically. And I'm not that computer literate, and it was difficult. I mean, there were people who bought houses without even seeing them, other than the videos. So yeah, I found that to be.
Do you have any pets?
Well, is Finn considered a pet?
No.
No, we don't. But my daughter has a black lab who's a puppy, and he broke my wrist, so he comes to our house a lot.
Are any of your children or grandchildren living in Harding?
Mm-hmm. I have 3 grandchildren. Well, my daughter lives in town with her family and 3 grandchildren.
Thank you for participating.
Oh, you're welcome.
May you introduce yourself?
Mary Demeter,
Where are you from?
Harding Township. Been
Did you
here all my life.
go to school here?
I went to kindergarten and 1st grade, and then I went to the Assumption School in Morristown, New Jersey, and then on to Bailey Eller, which is not in existence anymore. Been here a long time, 84 years.
Oh wow. You are part of the Harding Township Administration Department. What kind of work do you do?
I worked for the township. I started with Bill Thompson down in Green Village and worked part-time. And then I came up here to the township when they built this beautiful building here. I worked there for how many years was it?
Well, you were there, I think, from '79 until 2014.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. She retired in 2004, and then in her retirement, she was asked to come in part-time for the next 10 years because she knew a lot of stuff.
Couldn't give it
on
up.
how to do it. And when she lived in, when she worked in the house with Bill Thompson, that's the first time I met her back in 1959 and what have you. It was a little house on Wood Avenue. Do you know where the Green Village Deli is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you come out of the Green Village Deli, past the firehouse, and you go down the road, you don't go on the main road. You go down the little road there. Bill Thompson was down there. It was just a little house, and that was the municipal building. Right, Mary?
And now we're here. Yeah, beautiful building.
What do you like to do in your free time?
I don't really have any free time. No, but I enjoy gardening and cooking.
Yeah.
Cooking, gardening. We don't travel as much as we used to.
We live on Pleasantville Road, the last house on Pleasantville and Long Hill Road. And Mary has lived in this town all but 3 years. When we got married in '62, we lived in Morristown in a rented apartment, and then we came back here. But Mary lived in, are you familiar with Pleasantville Road?
Yeah, I live off
And
of
Millbrook
Pleasantville
Road?
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, well, if you go down Millbrook Road and you get to Pleasantville, Mrs. Willine's house is where
It's
Mary
near where the
lived
brook is.
for the
and
first
bridge.
20 some odd years of her life. That's where she lived when I met her.
And then we moved up to Marino Drive.
Right.
And my father put in that road, and he was a building contractor. And he put in the roadway, and it's many beautiful homes in there now. And they restricted the acreage back then to, I think it was 2 acres. You have to have.
You had to have 2 acres.
Am I
yeah.
talking
Her maiden
too
name
much?
is Burke. Her father's name was Patrick Burke, the builder. And now the son, her brother, is the architect, lives on Marino Drive up
He
there.
was downstairs. I don't know where he went.
What was your favorite hobbies as a child?
I enjoyed the summertime because we had a brook that ran down the side of the house, went through our property. And my father built up the walls and made like a pool.
And he dammed up the water. He made a dam in there so that the water would
And
get
we
high,
would
and they used
swim
that
in
as a
there,
swimming pool.
snakes and all.
Wow. Do you have any siblings?
Yes. My brother Pat, he's up here right now. He came in at the end downstairs. That's my brother. And then I've lost my sister Kate. and
2
my
sisters,
2
yeah.
sisters, and then my other sister is in a nursing home.
Did your brother go to Harding Township with you?
Yes, he started in Harding Township School, then went on to Del Park,
Oh, wow.
And then he went to Del Park.
and on to, he was in Washington. What was the name of
The school that he went to?
yeah,
Oh, God, I don't remember. Let me think. I should know it. A very famous
Road.
college in Washington.
Georgetown.
What is it?
Georgetown.
That's what it is.
He's an architect, has done a lot of homes here in Harding. He's downstairs, I think.
What college did you go to?
I went to Berkeley Business School. I did not go to college.
Why did you want to be part of this project?
Because I enjoyed and very fortunate to have lived in Harding Township all my life. Yeah.
So you grew up in Harding. Do you still live in the same house as you used to as a child?
No.
No.
We built our home down at where Lou Lanzarote was talking on the border of the Great Swamp.
Yeah. The house that she lived in as a young girl, and when we got married, we now live at the end of that road, which is Long Hill Road and Pleasantville Road. It's a 3-acre piece
Right
of
next to
property.
when you go down into the Great
And
Swamp.
if you make a left turn, you go
Where
down
the
into the
jet
swamp.
port is going to be. The jet port is going to be there. But the town is successful in
Yeah.
not letting it come.
Does Harding still feel and look the same as it used to?
No, it's changed, you know, a lot of restrictions, which were good, to keep it kind of rural, you know, an open land.
Okay. Thank you so much for being part of this project.
How was it to be a woman in banking back then?
It was hard. It was started right out of high school and took several classes, but it was definitely banking. Then was definitely a man's profession.
Did you enjoy your career?
I did.
How was the banking industry back then, since it has changed a lot currently?
There were no computers. It was all hand. Anything that came in, you just hand put it through.
Did you go to Harding Township School?
I did. 1946 was the start.
How has it changed?
Well, we only had like one classroom.
Oh, wow.
And maybe 22 students, 23 students. And it was small, and you knew everyone in your classroom, and when you went to visit them, just your mom or dad would drive you, and because we didn't have public transportation or anything like that in Harding.
Did you live here for your entire life? If not, where are you from?
I was born in Madison, and then moved to Harding in 1946. My parents built a home there, and I was there in that house until 1997, and then I moved to Mount Kimberley. So I've been a Harding resident, I can say, all my life.
Which bank did you work for?
I started out at First National Bank in Morristown, and then my final bank was Growth Bank on Route 202.
Where are some places that you have traveled to?
Vermont, Ireland. Oh yeah, we traveled there. Half of the United States, my husband and I traveled, and enjoyed the United States.
Did you play any sports as a child? If so, what?
No.
Does Harding feel or look the same as it used to? If it doesn't, how has it changed?
How has Harding changed? Bigger homes, the roads, like they said before, were dirt. It's just a lot larger than it ever was before.
Okay.
You said that you liked reading. What are some of your favorite books?
I love to read books. I love to both, anything, fiction, nonfiction, travel. All my books are.
What is your favorite part about Harding?
The people, the town, even though it's got larger. Luckily, many people have tried to keep it as rural. It's not, but we love it the way it is.
Are there any stories in your life you would like to share?
I don't think, and one thing I want to put in this is on Route 202, when I was young, there was a swimming pool, and it was open to the public. And no one knows it because it's been made into a park now on 202. And it was a great big pool, and people came from all over to go swimming there. And that was my first job, working at like the refreshment stand. And that's one of the stories I would tell Harding, that I think that people don't realize there's a lot of places. Jockey Hollow was different. They've changed the road now where Jockey Hollow is from where it was. There's just good things in Harding.
What do you like to do in your spare time?
Now? Bowl, walk, take care of my great-grandchildren, and visit with lots of friends. Luckily, a lot of Harding residents that I knew back then are still here.
Oh, wow.
Like I know most of those people that are being interviewed today, which is nice.
What was your favorite part about being in the first aid squad?
Helping people. I did that for 30 years. When I joined, I didn't think I could do it, and then I did, for 30, and really, really enjoyed it. I knew a lot of the people, and that was a good thing too. I think it was a comfort to them that if the situation not quite as stressful.
And how old were you when you joined that?
35.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just that it's nice seeing everybody, and I love Harding. I don't ever want to move out of it. I can help it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did you want to be a part of this project?
Well, because I grew up in Harding, I just like to share what I know about it.
What was your favorite candy when you were a little girl?
Favorite candy? Hershey bar.
That's a good one.
Yeah, still good.
What was your favorite ice cream flavor?
That's a tough one. I think vanilla.
Yeah. Where did you attend elementary school?
Harding Township. I went kindergarten through 8th grade.
Where did you go to high school?
Morristown High School. Back then, that's where we went.
What was the high school called?
The high school was called Morristown High School. Yeah,
So you didn't go to Madison, you went to Morristown.
They changed that in 1972, and I graduated before then.
What was your, that's your question.
What was your school day like?
My school day, well, when I was in kindergarten through 3rd grade, I took the bus, got on the bus and took the ride all the way around the swamp. The swamp road was open, so you could go from Long Hill Road to Green Village and back to school. That was before the Great Swamp became national recreation area. But after 3rd grade, because we lived more than 2 miles from school, I had to walk or ride or get a ride. So usually I rode my bike. So I rode my bike, and I always say I had to go uphill both ways.
Oh no.
I did, because Long Hill Road goes up and then it goes back down to the school. And so coming from school, I had to go up and back down to go home. So, but it was fine.
Yes. Who was the most influential person in your life?
Most influential. I don't know. I probably would say there are quite a few adults that were influential in terms of because I ended up becoming a teacher, so a lot of teachers were very influential. Mrs. Irwin was my first grade teacher. Ms. Baumgarten was my kindergarten teacher. Mrs. Major was a 2nd grade teacher, I think. So I had a lot of teachers that were very influential, but I also had other adults in my life that were very influential. So.
Did you like math when you were younger?
I did. I liked math, but I also liked reading. I really, when I went to college, or when I was applying to college and I had to decide what I was going to major in, I really scored very well in both areas, and so it wasn't until my end of my sophomore year in college that I could really decide what I wanted to do, because school came easy to me. I enjoyed it.
Did you always know you wanted to be a teacher?
I think so. I think because I had 2 younger brothers and I would help them with their homework, sort of teach them, do spelling with them and that kind of thing. It just seemed like that was a comfortable thing to do.
Who was your favorite teacher as a child?
Favorite teacher of all time? Probably, I really liked Miss Mewborn. That was in high school. She was a math teacher. She was probably the first female math teacher that I'd had.
Oh wow.
So that was important. That, you could be female and be a math teacher.
So they didn't have they didn't mix them up usually? They just had male teachers?
There were some male teachers, but in Harding, when I had math, they were always male teachers.
Now they're all female.
Are
yes,
they?
yes.
Yeah, math and science were always male.
Wow.
When I went there.
Strange. When did you realize that you really liked math?
I don't know. I think because I could always do it. I just,
Mhm.
I'm also a puzzle person. I like to do
Yeah.
Sudokus and crossword puzzles, and so math to me is a puzzle.
Yes, that's fun. Does it still feel the same as it used
Feel,
to?
that was the word I was missing, sorry. You know, it's very different. We didn't have half the houses that we have now.
Yes.
When I grew up, there was on Pleasantville Road, there was, I guess, 4 houses on my side of the street from
Oh.
one intersection to the next intersection, and not many after that. There were no girls in my neighborhood when I was
Oh.
growing up. It was all boys, so I got to play a lot of sports with boys.
What sports did you play?
Well, at Harding, it seemed like we all played everything. So in the fall, I played. We did field hockey and soccer.
Yes.
Because do you do that now? Field hockey and soccer?
I just do field hockey.
Okay,
They
but
do have soccer?
They do have soccer.
Oh, okay. And then basketball.
Yes,
winter.
I play basketball.
And then softball in the
Oh,
spring.
you guys had softball?
They don't do that anymore.
We don't
They
have
do lacrosse.
softball anymore. We
No?
have lacrosse now.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I guess that
Lacrosse
sort of
and
replaced
track.
it.
Lacrosse and
Yeah,
track.
but they didn't have track at Harding.
Oh,
Yeah, no track at all. And no lacrosse wasn't even heard of.
yeah.
I don't know when it started.
It's gotten a lot more popular.
Yeah.
Please share some of your favorite memories about living in Harding and about your life and career and family.
Well, some of my favorite memories, that's easy. When I was in 7th and 8th grade, I had a good friend in school, and on Saturdays, we would go bicycle riding.
Oh,
And we would ride our bikes to any place that had a good bakery, basically. So we'd ride to Madison, and they had one that made brownies that we liked. And so we'd get a Coke and brownies, and then we'd ride home. Sometimes we'd ride to Bernardsville and do the same thing.
was it a long ride?
Well, yeah. You've driven to Madison. It's
Yes.
fairly long.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe 5 miles, maybe
Wow.
5 or 6. But that's each way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was always worth it because we got our snack when we got there.
Yes.
And we did a lot of, like, we did Madison, we didn't do Morristown, but we would go that direction. I don't think we went into Morristown. We'd do Bernardsville and Myersville. We'd go down that way through the swamp. So,
I also heard that there used to be a water park on the road going to Burnersville. Is that true?
yes, in fact, it's funny you should say that because when I was growing up, I swam in the Bain Park.
Oh,
That was
really?
actually a swimming hole for people. Yes, that's hard to believe now, but it
Yes.
was. But they condemned it because too many houses were being built, so too many septics were creating a problem there. And
yeah,
so,
that's not good.
no, that's not good. So around, I don't know, 1st or 2nd grade, that was the end of it. We couldn't swim there anymore. So then my parents joined the Mount Kemble pool, which was on 202. If you know where the market inn, there used to be a restaurant up on the hill, big house.
Minuteman?
No, closer to Jockey Hollow, but
Oh,
Should know this.
opposite side of the street. Well, anyway, it's this big white house. Hasn't been a restaurant all during COVID, but before COVID, it was a restaurant. Anyway, it was across the street from that.
oh.
I'm trying to think. If you're going, do you know where Hair Designs is? No. Well, you know where the Minuteman is.
Yes.
Okay, if you're on the same side of the street, but you head toward Morristown, there's an area that has a lot of young trees in it.
Yeah.
That's where the pool was.
I know. My mother pointed it out to me.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was really cool. Because erosion and all that stuff really covered it up.
But then that closed, and my parents then, well, I guess it was still going. My parents got us out of the ground pool.
Oh, that's fun.
Why did you move to Harding?
My parents bought the property when I was little bitty, and they built the house there, and I moved there when I was 2.
What road was your house on?
Pleasantville Road.
Is it still up?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
My parents lived in the house. My mother lived in the house until about 6 years ago, and then we sold the house, and the man that bought it remodeled it, and it's still there.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite part about Harding?
Favorite part about Harding?
I think there's still a designation.
I like that it's
There was, I remember.
sort of secluded.
Yes.
We don't get all the traffic, and yet it doesn't take long to get someplace. Like if I want to go into New York City, or if I want to go to New Brunswick, or Trenton, or Philadelphia, it's just a convenient town to be in.
Yes. What was your first job?
Save down, and then the older kids
First
send
job,
yourself. Yeah.
other than
Pull the shades
babysitting,
down.
because I did babysit.
If you pull the shades down,
I did a lot of babysitting.
right?
Was waitress in Basking Ridge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where I think it was at the Luna Cafe, or I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Blue something, I think it's called
Yeah.
now. It's changed names a few times, but it was called the Corner Cupboard when I waitress there.
Oh. Where did you teach?
I taught at Morristown High School. I taught there for 37 years. Loved it. Did a lot of tutoring, volunteer tutoring afterwards.
So it was volunteer tutoring?
No, that was teaching. But then
Okay.
after I retired, I did volunteer tutoring.
Oh,
I went
that's
back
nice.
to help students that
Yes.
were having difficulty.
What type of math did you teach and which grade levels?
Well, when you teach at the high school, you end up usually teaching many grade levels. So I started with Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 from geometry. And then eventually I started teaching pre-calculus and calculus and computer science. And then computer science kept evolving. It became AP computer science. It kept changing languages. I think I taught about 4 different languages over the time that I taught. Started with basic, then I taught Pascal, and then I taught C++, and then I taught Java.
Wow.
Didn't teach Fortran. That's probably the only language I didn't teach.
What are the main differences between teaching then versus now?
Gee, that's a tough one. There's a lot more paperwork for teachers, which is unfortunate because it takes us away from time with the students.
Yeah.
There's a lot more state required things that have to be taught that really have nothing to do with the subject matter.
Yeah.
And there's also the threat of security for the students and the teachers and all the faculty. It's changed quite a bit.
Yeah. And of course the technology, right?
Well, yes, the technology. See, that was something I liked. I enjoyed the technology. So.
Yes. What was your favorite part of teaching?
Favorite part of teaching is being in the classroom with the students. Really, my favorite course to teach. Well, other than the computer science, I actually loved computer science, but geometry would be the math course that I like. But those two are sort of similar because you've got to think logically in both of them, and you can't jump ahead a step because you're going to get it wrong, whether it's in the computer or in the geometry proof. So.
Do your children live nearby?
No, they do not. My daughter lives in Michigan with her family, and my son lives in California with his family.
Oh. Did you retire yet?
I did. I retired 12 years ago.
Oh, nice. What are your kids' names and how old are they?
My son is Brian, and he is 50. Somebody just asked me. I think it's 54, and he has 7 children.
Oh wow.
3 from his first family, and then 4 from the second family.
So you have lots of grandchildren.
Lots of grandchildren, and then my daughter she'll turn 50 this year. She is the mother to a son who's in the University of Indiana, and her daughter's still in high school.
Nice. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color, blue. Which is Harding's color, right?
Yes.
Still. We had twirlers when I was in Harding. Do you have twirlers?
What are twirlers?
With a baton.
Oh, yes.
Twirling of the baton.
Like a club? Like
it was a club. Yeah. And we had, that's what, when you said blue, we had blue uniforms. Yeah.
Oh, you had to wear uniforms?
For twirling.
Oh, for twirling.
Yeah. Yeah, not for school.
Harding used to have uniforms?
Well, we had uniforms for gym class.
Oh. Oh no. Okay, that's the
They were
worst.
ugly.
Oh.
Sometimes they were all one piece. They were
Oh.
shorts, and sometimes they had like rompers, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
What are your favorite hobbies?
Swimming, yoga, reading.
Thank you very much for coming out. That's special.
I do a few other things, but I don't know that I sort of change around with, like, if I'll knit for a little while or I'll, that kind of thing. But those three are my big hobbies.
And our last question: did you have any nicknames when you were younger?
My parents never gave me a nickname, but I had friends of my parents had nicknames for me, and I don't know if kids at school did or not, but one of my girlfriends, her dad used to call me Marshmallow, because Marcia.
Oh.
So I was Marshmallow, and my middle name was Ruth, and so one of my parents' friends used to call me Marshy Ruth.
Aw.
Yeah. But nobody really shortened it or made it weird. You know, like, well, Marshmallow's a little weird. But
Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
Can you tell me about yourself, like your birthday, age, name, etc.?
I was born in '54. That makes me 68. Born here, born in Morristown. Lived in Green Village all my life. I'm the third generation in Harding Township. Third generation of firefighters, second generation of fire chiefs. One of the longest serving chiefs in town.
Are or were you married? If so, what's the name of your spouse?
Yeah, I'm married over 40 years to Janet. She grew up in Madison, and she didn't know anything about Green Village, even though it was right over the hill. All there is a sign in Madison that says Green Village, and that's it. She never knew about it.
Do you have children? If so, how many?
Yeah, I have 2 children. One moved to Alaska. The other one right now is in Madison, Wisconsin. She's part of the Galapagos Island Conservatory Group, who takes care of the Galapagos Islands, very environmentally sensitive area. Before that, she dealt with environmental issues in the Philippines and the South Pacific.
How long have you lived in Harding?
All my life, 68 years.
And where did you go to school in Harding?
I went to Harding Township, along with my mother, who went to Harding Township.
We're gonna move on to occupation and work. So you said your occupation was firefighter, right?
My paid occupation is an HVAC serviceman. I volunteered, my family has volunteered in the fire department since we've been in town, yeah.
What was your experience like?
In the fire department?
And the fire department, exciting. We did a lot of stuff. We, everything from swamp searches for people who got lost, horseless, riderless horses would come back. Back in the day, we had a lot of horses. When I was growing up, a lot of horses in town, a lot of barns, and people would, the horse would come back to the barn because that's what they know what to do. They come back for supper without the rider, and then we would set up, everybody would go out and look for the horse, and they call the fire departments in, and then when they found him, then the fire department would blow the sirens, one long blast, and then everybody knew that the horse was, they were found, because we didn't have cell phones or anything like that back then.
Did you face any problems throughout your career?
Oh yeah, in service it's fixing everybody else's problem. Things break, computer rooms go down, big AT&T computers switching gears would have problems, take lightning strikes or something, you have to come in and get the equipment back up, because back then the computer equipment was very temperature and humidity sensitive, unlike now where you can take iPads, leave them outside, they're still good. And the fire department, we do the same thing. We show up on somebody's worst day and we correct the problem. Or we don't correct the problem, but we fix it so it doesn't get any worse.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to like your life in Harding. So how has Harding changed throughout the years?
Changed from when my mother lived here, it was all cows. We had a lot of dairy farms. Then my generation came, the cows left, and the horses came in. We had horses everywhere. It was nothing to see horses loose running down the road. So that's a big change, and now they have been sold off. You now have developed, what I call developments. New housing, a lot more housing than we used to have. Everybody knew everybody else. You didn't lock your house because if somebody needed sugar, they just borrow it. It was no big deal. My grandfather, he was the first special police officer in town. And he did, he'd be on a horse or he'd be on a car, but if he needed a car, he'd just borrow it. Leave his horse there and everybody knew. Oh, the cops got to borrow my car. But it was very much more open, and he was also dog warden and game warden, so he had to deal with animals all the time.
What do you love about Harding?
Harding, the greatest thing about Harding is that there's so many people that were forward thinking. As you heard downstairs with the Harding Land Trust, the historical societies, we're preserving Harding. We have a lot of open space that other towns, you drive around, you got condos going up on every square inch, a house on every square inch. They were very forward thinking and to get the land to make Harding a very beautiful place.
What's something you've done to positively impact Harding?
Wow, that's between the fire department and the
Historical Society.
We're getting a lot of stuff back, and then the family. My grandfather was the blood and sweat of St. Hubert's. Mrs. Dodge was the money. He worked for Mrs. Dodge. St. Hubert's used to run out of Green Village. So and my parents were the founding members of Christ the King. So we've been on the school boards. We've served on a lot of different committees on that. So that's very interesting.
Which Dodge estate did your dad work?
The main one on, she owned quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's the one on Madison Avenue. And where St. Hubert's is now?
Yes.
That was part of all of Mrs. Dodge, and across the street was part of the Dodge estate.
And what is the mansion now part of Fairleigh Dickinson, or is it?
That was the Cromwell estate.
Okay.
Her estate was on the other side of the road. It got knocked down.
Okay.
It was the Golden Mile or something.
Yes.
Back then.
Yes. Okay.
And all the very rich, and it was great. And Mr. Dodge, he owned Remington Arms, and he was one very instrumental in the Great Swamp. He went around and bought land secretly, and he was a lot that had to do. We had people in Green Village that was like the front, but he was behind the scenes, and he really actually made it happen. It was like a game of chess. Port Authority would do something, and then he'd come around and do something else. That's why we went to the wilderness area.
Was the Port Authority going to build an airport there?
Yes.
And so the Great Swamp is preserved for all time now because of what he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were going to knock the mountains down, fill in the Great Swamp. We went with the National Wildlife Refuge, and then the Port Authority said, well, we could still put the runways within so many feet. But once it became a wilderness area, they weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful story. I didn't know that.
So to close things up, is there a favorite story you'd like to share?
Some of the things back then, everybody had bikes. You either had a bike, a horse, or a tractor. But in Green Village, we had the siren, the test siren, that went off about 6 o'clock. And that was supper time. So if you imagine, here you are, all the kids around playing ball or something, the siren goes, and it was like the police come. Everybody hopped on their bikes and ran home, pedaled home, because it was dinner time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, we had the fire department, back in those days, the fire department and the churches were like the center of town. And Green Village, they had lots of ball games under the lights, and probably the most memorable one, they had donkey baseball. You couldn't do it. You know, everybody knew how to play baseball except the donkeys, and the donkeys didn't want to learn. So, so imagine, you know, they would hit the ball, try to get on the donkey, and try to get the donkey to go to first base, and the people out in the field. So
that's so
it
funny.
was just a memorable time. But the fire department and church, we used to go. The fire department used to have we had church services up in the fire department before the Christ the King was built.
That's good. I love the interview, so thank you so much. Yeah, thank
Oh,
you.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
Doing this.
It's
great,
fascinating.
Great thing, and I can imagine in 99 years at the bicentennial when people are looking back, going, wow, people wore crazy shoes and shirts.
Let's get those shoes. Wear those shoes.
Oh, well,
yeah, there you go.
Regular shoes. They'll be around forever.
Thank you very much.
Okay, one of the things that I said downstairs was when we were talking about open space in Harding, and of course, that's one of the interesting memories of Harding is the open space and the trees and the streams. But it came up in the discussion, the big vast open space field on Blue Mill Road, and that was one of the farm fields of Colgate, who was the head of Colgate Palmolive, and his son. Mr. Colgate's son was a famous physicist. His name was Sterling Colgate. He was a very famous physicist in the United States. In 1960, he was listed as one of the 10 top scientists in the United States. He was very much involved with many physics topics. He ended his career as the president of New Mexico Tech University. And I knew Sterling reasonably well. And I was on a committee once with, one of the committees that I was on with Sterling was in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And we met for dinner various times. We met for dinner, and I remember distinctly a dinner that we met at in Princeton for one of the committees. And at that time, I recall asking Sterling what he remembered about Harding Township. And we had a reasonably interesting discussion. He did not have fond memories of his life here in Harding. I think there were some family issues and all. But what he remembered and related to, two of the things they remembered and related to me was that he remembered the vast fields across the road from his bedroom. His bedroom was in the White House that's across the road from the field. He remembered the vast fields. And he remembered taking dynamite out of his father's barn, one of his father's barns, and blowing up the ice on Silver Lake. Silver Lake is down at the bottom of Blue Mill Road, and it froze over in the winter, and he would take dynamite down and blow up the ice on Silver Lake. One of his father's barns still exists on Village Road.
Yeah.
That big green barn there is one of the Colgate barns. So those were two of the things that he related to me and that I recall vividly that he related that night. And he was a physicist and from the Colgate family. He had an interesting life. We talked about other things, of course, at various times. He had bought a coal mine in Colorado, just above Boulder, Colorado, and he was trying to liquefy coal. He had sufficient resources from his family that he could do that, and that was not very successful. He also flew airplanes, and he would fly little rockets into tornadoes to try to understand the wind profiles in tornadoes, and he could do that himself. He had the research support and finances to do that. So those are some of my memories of Sterling Colgate in Harding Township. Thank you.
What made you want to be an architect?
I wanted to be an architect very early in my life. I started out drawing at Harding Township School, and the teacher then was Miss Blanchard. She says, "Oh, you can draw." So that was kind of a start, and with that I pursued drawing, mechanical drawing at Del Barton, and then from there I went on to Georgetown. They didn't have an architectural school, but it was one of the schools I had gotten into. I graduated from Georgetown, and then when I left Georgetown, I went to Columbia University School of Architecture. And I've had the good fortune of people engaging my services here in Harding Township with the churches and post office, etc.
Have you lived here your whole life? If not, where did you come from?
I've lived here all my life. I was born at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital and arrived in New Vernon, I think 2 weeks later. And I've been here for 85 years.
Did you play any sports as a child? If so, what?
I played, well, I was into sports big time. Loved sports and went to a school where sports was big up at Delbarton. And ice hockey, I played tennis, played at, and then at Georgetown. And then after that, I kept on playing tennis, and I've played it up to now. We're also skiing. Bridget, my wife, she's a skier. And we've been skiers up to just a couple of years ago.
Do you have any good stories that you would like to share?
Well, there's a lot of good stories. When you're here 85 years, there's a lot of things you can talk about. At one time, we had Boy Scouts in New Vernon. Troop 43, that's discontinued. The other thing that's changed in New Vernon is the sports that are important relative to the school. I understand now that baseball as a sport has been stopped for lacrosse, and lacrosse is a great sport. And I never knew about the game lacrosse. It's a Canadian game, but it caught on like wildfire in the United States. And as you know, it's like a brush fire across the country from the East Coast to the West Coast now.
Does the J stand for anything important in your name?
No, it's just the name that I was blessed with, and that was it.
So you said you went to Harding Township School. How did it change?
I started at Harding Township School for kindergarten and first grade. My parents sent me to Bailey Grammar, which is Assumption, from my sophomore, or I should say second grade on. And then to answer your question, the changes, the structure, the basic building was in the picture I had showed earlier. That was the nucleus of the building.
Did you design your house? If so, what inspired you?
That's a good question. Well, the inspiration is I got married, I had to have a place to live in, so we had to build a house. So we built a house.
What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
I like doing architecture, to be honest with you. You know, it's a great thing. I enjoy it very much, and it's great to watch how the evolution of architecture has gone from pencil and paper to CAD now. That's a significant change. Other things we do, we still we have a place in Bayhead, and we go down there. We're out on the boat all the time, on the beach, getting burned up, and playing some tennis, etc. And then the grandkids who were at Harding and graduated from Harding, we go out and play golf with them once in a while at the public.
And they also went to Delbarton.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Is your son an architect?
Yes, he is.
Because you like to water ski, what did you live by a lake growing up?
The lake that we did the water skiing was Lake Musconetcon, Lake Apacon. I did water skiing down the shore over the years, and then when we travel, I'd water ski in other parts of the country, and I've actually water skied in the Pacific Ocean. Yeah. And that happened the time that I was water skiing. I was out at the Architects Convention down in San Diego, and that was at the time when Desert Storm was active, and it was just the area was great. It was to water ski, and we were able to ski around the Ranger, the big aircraft carrier that moved the troops back over to the operation in the Middle East.
How did you meet your spouse?
Skiing, as a matter of fact. I met her in Canada, and that was a good thing, and we got together, and we're still married.
What attracts you to Harding?
What attracts me to Harding? Well, I've been here. I love the place. People have been great, and it's just been a wonderful experience to be part of Harding Township. I've also been involved in different things, like with the Board of Adjustment, with volunteering for a number of municipal services over the years.
Do you have a message for the students of Harding Township School?
Well, one thing, stay focused. I think America's got great opportunities ahead. We're going to be a stronger nation later, and we continue to grow and work your way up to be a success, maybe through college, and onto a nice career.
Do you have any other comments or questions you'd like to share?
No, I just love Harding Township. There's so many great things that have happened here, and I have relatives from my uncles who was the mayor of Harding Township for many, many years, and they're the people that deserve the credit that built New Vernon into what it is today. Very quickly, 3-acre zoning was created through. He was the founder of the fire department, John Quinn, and he was the longest serving mayor that we had in Harding Town, something like 21 years. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Bill Dudley. I've lived here since 1945, before you guys were born.
When did you start sailing?
A long, long time ago. When I was a kid, I grew up at the Jersey Shore and learned to sail. And later on in life, after I was married, I got to do a lot of sailing on bigger boats. And then I got to, took a lot of courses in sailing and navigation, to the point where I can go just about anywhere and captain my own boat. So I've done a lot of sailing in the British Virgin Islands, Bermuda to Maine, and 1991 I sailed across the Atlantic Ocean.
So do you still sail?
Now, I've gotten old enough now, I get on a boat, I'd probably fall and break a bone, so I don't do much sailing anymore.
Do you have children? If so, how many?
Where did you go to school when you were like a student or a kid?
Well, I went to another school and then came here in 3rd grade, and at Harding Township School. And Mr. Wirt was my principal, but I guess the headmaster, or whatever you call him.
Where'd you go for high school?
High school, I went to Millbrook School in Millbrook, New York, which actually has a zoo. It's the only high school in the country that has a zoo. It's a fully accredited zoo. Excellent school.
Like, what animals are there?
They have some endangered species, like a red panda. They have a lot of reptiles. They used to have a cheetah years ago. They have emus, red foxes, wolves, owls, lots of birds, lots of fish. So a lot of stuff there. And the students take care of the animals.
So when you worked for Hewlett Packard as an electrical engineer, can you tell us about what was happening?
Well, Hewlett Packard was founded in Palo Alto, California, which is credited with the start of what we know as Silicon Valley. And I worked there starting in 1965 and worked there for about 28 years designing electronic test equipment. So we had Mr. Hewlett and Mr. Packard were very famous people who started the company. They're really good guys to work for.
Like, what projects did you work on there?
We're designing electronic power supplies and an oscilloscope and some other stuff.
You mentioned you mentioned your participation in the New Vernon Volunteer Fire Department and founding the First Aid Squad. Can you explain what that was like?
I joined the fire department in 1968 and went to a lot of fire schools, learned how to do stuff. And in 1973, we went to a bad fire on Sand Spring Road where we lost 51 horses. And when the fire chief went and got the mail that day, he came back with an application for an ambulance design. So he thought I might be interested in it because I was teaching first aid by then. So when I took the application and started filling out questions and designing an ambulance, and about a year later, my design won first place. So as a result, the first prize was an ambulance. So here we were. It was in the name of the fire department. So here we were with an ambulance, and we didn't know what to do with it, and whether we should sell it, give it away, or start our own first aid squad. And I was very much in favor of starting our own ambulance or first aid squad. So, being an instructor, I started teaching classes, and on November 1st, 1974, we went into service. And during that summer, I had our people sign up with the Summit First Aid Squad and ride with them, fill in the vacancies from their members who were on vacation. So our people would get some experience, and we started. Then in the early to mid 80s, I became fire chief. So I was doing fire and medical work. So it kept me very busy.
Yeah.
What's something you've done to
Oh, what are your favorite things to do in your free time?
Do my free time? Besides sleeping, I like to play golf, sailing, but I don't do much anymore. I used to build models. So a lot of gardening, reading, in the wintertime. So whatever I find to keep me busy. I don't do much responding to fires and first aid calls anymore.
Yeah.
Because they don't want an 84-year-old guy out there running around on the highways. So if there's something really bad in town, I'll go help out.
What made you want to participate in this project?
In this project? It was interesting because I've lived in Harding since 1945. So I was here right at the end of World War II and lived on Village Road in a house that the original part of the house that I lived in was built before George Washington was here. So he actually went by the house back then. And in those days, when I was a kid, we had a lot of farms in town, a lot more than we do now. And I used to go watch the guys thrash the wheat, pick the corn. So that was a lot of fun. One thing I did as a kid, which you don't think you could do anymore, was I had a friend of mine who lived on James Street, and he would bring his bicycle up to my house, and we'd have an early dinner, go to bed, set the alarm clock for 11 o'clock, and get up, get on our bicycles and ride all around Harding Township. And we did that in the summertime when it was warm and there was a full moon and you could see everything. So that was a lot of fun. It's very, very informative. But there's in the wintertime they use ice skate on Silver Lake. But now you never get any ice that you could skate on Silver Lake. Back in the old days, it was a great place to skate.
That was supper time. So if you imagine
What encouraged you to sail across the Atlantic?
the siren goes,
I had a friend of mine who had a sailboat,
everybody hopped on their bikes and
a 47-foot sloop,
because it was dinner
and he
time.
had it in Europe for a couple of years because he and his wife would go sailing around parts of Europe. And he decided it was time to bring the boat back home. And he asked me if I'd help him sail it home. So I said, sure, why not? So I went down flew to the Canary Islands, and we got on the boat there, sailed south to the Cape Verde Islands, which is where the hurricanes are born.
Everybody knew how to play baseball.
And we sailed to the west,
So imagine,
and ended up in Barbados. So there was not much wind on parts of the trip. So it took us a month from the time we left the Canary Islands. So we left right about Thanksgiving and got in about Christmas.
How was it?
Some days were very boring, especially when there was no wind. But we'd see whales would come visit us, porpoises, dolphins, and flying fish. So flying fish were fascinating to watch. You see them stick their nose up in the water, check things out, and then they disappear. All of a sudden they'd swim real fast, come out of the water, and they have these little pectoral fins. They're like wings, and they glide. And they go for like 100 yards. They were neat. And one night, I just come off watch, which meant it was like 3 in the morning. I finished my 4 hours at the helm, steering the boat. The rest of the crew was sound asleep. And the guy on the boat, he followed me. And so he was up on deck. I came down, took off my foul weather pants, and he yells, "Bill, get up here quick!" I said, "Oh my God, what happened?" So we went up there, and the flying fish landed in his lap. Of course, it's pitch black; you can't see anything. So he didn't know what happened. And in the morning, we would see flying fish flopping around on the deck. We throw them back in the water. And when I went to fly home from Barbados, there were signs in the airport saying frozen flying fish. Well, apparently it was very good to eat, and we didn't know that. If we'd known that, we would have cooked some of them and had to eat.
So elementary would go down to the boiler room?
Yeah.
How would you describe the evolution of
They
Harding?
used to turn off the light, used to have.
I'm not that old, but Harding started, was incorporated in 1970, I was thinking 1921. And a lot went on here. I remember since I've been here, I've seen the fight for keep the jet port out of here, because it would wipe out the town, it would wipe out Mendham, it would wipe out Greenville, probably take part of Morristown, all of Madison, Chatham, would be gone. So that was a major effort for people to try and buy up all the land and then give it to the government, and then get an act of Congress to call it a wildlife preserve. And nobody could come along and change that. So that was a major accomplishment from all the people who worked on that.
How would you say Harding affected your life?
Well, it was unlike a city, being country. You got to wander around a lot, hike. Remember, I got sent home one time from Harding Township School, and instead of waiting and taking a bus, I hiked. I get home about the same time the bus could get there. My parents didn't know. I was told to go home. But Harding's influence on me it fosters a spirit of volunteerism. as you know, all the committees we have in town, Township Committee and all the other planning board, all volunteers. Nobody gets paid to do any of that stuff. And of course, my involvement was the fire department and the first aid squad. And I was also on the first board of health. So I served on the board of health for a number of years. So I think that was extremely important for people to get to know about the volunteer effort.
Are there any other stories you would like to share with us today?
Yeah, I've forgotten most of them. But I think the rural character of the town is really important. The preservation of wildlife, of property, keep from being overdeveloped. There have been a number of fights over the years. You probably read about the cell tower fight between the town and Verizon, because people don't want cell tower in the middle of the historic district. But we do want our cell phones. So, gotta be a compromise somewhere.
All right. Thank you for participating in this project, Mrs. Dudley.
You're welcome.